Welcome to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. Caregiving for aging parents can be a major challenge, particularly when work or geography makes close contact difficult or even impossible, not to mention very expensive. My guest this week, Rob Blatt, and I have known each other for several years. When he told me about his company, envoyatHome, I knew I had to share this with the viewers of Live Better Longer. envoyatHome can drastically lower the cost of caregiving by adding inexpensive technology as a caregiving option. Rob, before you tell me about your service, I'm going to ask everybody to be sure to stay with us for the entire show, as Rob has generously agreed to offer my viewers something special. Rob, welcome to Live Better Longer.
Well, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure. So tell me about envoyatHome.
Well, let me also tell you about a statistic, an important statistic. By 2029, it's expected that 54% of middle-income seniors won't even be able to afford senior housing. The cost of aging is a national crisis hiding in plain sight. I became aware to this issue a couple of years ago through a personal story. I had lost my dad. My sister and I found ourselves as primary caregivers for my mom. She was living in South Florida in an over 55 community in a single family home, and she loved her independence. She had her family or her relatives down there, and she had her doctors and her social life all down in Florida. With me being here in New Jersey and my sister being in Chicago, thousands of miles away, we felt a little helpless on how to help mom live alone independently. And while she was in great health, aside from the natural 80-year-old aches and pains, she was in need of knee surgery, and so we were obviously very concerned about potential issues that could result from people in that condition. Well, I did what any good son would do, Bill. I scoured the internet looking for solutions on how to help my sister and I feel more in control, and how to find ways for my mom to feel more comfortable living alone.
And you didn't find anything, did you?
Nothing. Big surprise there. Nothing. We found nothing. So I did the next thing that a good son would do. We created this thing called envoyatHome, which is our vision coming to life on a service that could help us as distant caregivers, distant children, as well as fit within the lifestyle of my mom living alone independently thousands of miles away.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So how has envoyatHome helped people?
So we installed envoyatHome in one of our first clients, and within just a few short weeks after installing envoyatHome, the family got an alert at 4 o'clock in the morning that dad, this is the dad who's an 85-year-old man, his name is John, he decided that at 4 o'clock in the morning he was going out for coffee and donuts. Well, this wasn't any ordinary 4 o'clock in the morning. This happened to be a 4 o'clock morning where we were about ready to have in New Jersey a big blizzard. In fact, there was a state of emergency. And so the family quickly ran out of the house, got to dad before he got too far out of the community, and was able to get dad back to safety.
Mm-hmm.
When the story was relayed to us, it was sort of very humbling to know that we were credited with saving dad's life, because this could have had a very tragic outcome.
Mm-hmm.
We knew we were really onto something, and we really knew that there's technology solutions that could really help people live better longer.
Well, this is really a great story, but it doesn't tell me, how does this work? What is envoyatHome?
So the way this works is, most everybody today carries a smartphone, and so we take advantage of that, as well as these small motion sensors that we place around the home. And with our innovative software, we can create this anytime, anywhere experience and make this available to families. Installation is a breeze. It just requires a couple of taps and clicks to set it up, and within an hour you can be up and running.
So this is all sensors, but are you using cameras too?
No, there's absolutely no cameras in these things. My mom would never allow cameras. It's a complete invasion of privacy. In fact, there's no cameras, there's no recording devices, there's no wearables, there's nothing to charge. The technical term for what we're doing is passive monitoring, but all your viewers need to know is that these sensors, which are just motion and movement based, powered with our innovative software, scan the living space 24/7 to provide this invisible blanket of protection to provide this safety net for your family members. The resident actually does nothing. There's no on-off switch. In fact, they may even have sensors in their home like this because they're very similar to what other companies use for security systems.
Interesting. So, you know, I think back to the I've fallen and I can't get up with a medallion that people would wear or not wear, or it wouldn't work. And so you've come up with a very unobtrusive and privacy appropriate passive system, and this can be monitored from anywhere, right?
Correct.
As long as you have an iPhone app.
That's right. There's actually one study that shows 97% of the time those buttons don't get pushed within 2 hours after they need to get pushed, and there's a whole lot of reasons why that occurs, but suffice it to say there's a lot of issues with and limitations with those sorts of systems.
So what else can envoyatHome do?
Well, the real magic is in not just providing the updates information throughout the day, but it's the data that it provides, the insights that it provides to families. And so it can provide insights into wellness, safety, cognitive decline, home environment, and so forth. And so you can imagine perhaps if somebody's wandering around their apartment at night, that might be indications of a lot of things, one of which could be cognitive decline. We can monitor for bathroom frequency, which could be a result of medication changes. We can monitor for med cabinets, whether they're being opened when they're supposed to be opened. We can monitor for social isolation. envoyatHome can tell when residents are leaving and entering their home. And so if you are a family member and caregiver and whatnot, you might really benefit from some of these insights to understand if there are some issues that need further attention and you want to involve your doctor and your primary your care team. We also monitor the home environment. And so in today's day and age, it used to be that the telephone never went out, but most people now get the telephone through their internet. And when the internet goes out, the phone goes out, which could pose a safety problem. We also monitor for the temperature in a home. And so we know that when it's exceedingly warm and the air conditioning goes out, that poses a real safety problem as well. So we are monitoring, we provide insights on a whole range of things.
So one thing you didn't mention, but one thing that it would be a concern to me is what about appliances like stoves and things like that? Have you come up with a way to be able to keep track of that?
We do monitor unattended cooking, and that's something that has been asked of us, and we can monitor for that as well.
So what's on the receiving end of this? What's the experiences you as the good son with your app? And you know the monitoring is occurring between the sensors and the software, but what are you able to see and how are you able to manage the process? I mean, you're getting data, but you have to interpret it, do you not? Because you're familiar with the person and their environment?
Well, envoyatHome does all the heavy lifting, so it's interpreting the data. And so let me share 3 quick stories.
Please.
And really would make this seem very obvious. So we have one client, their dad is a late 80-year-old man who lives in this magnificent farmhouse in Pennsylvania. Some of the original home was built in the mid-1700s, and it's since been added onto. And in fact, the property is so large that his children live in independent homes on premise. And so what their concern was that they wanted to make sure that Dad never went down the original staircase. It was very narrow and it was very steep. And for someone at that age level, it really was not a place for anyone to be. So they wanted to make sure he was compliant with not using those stairs. There was also stairs down into a basement, and so they wanted to make sure that should he go down there, I think his laundry might have been down there, that he would come up safely. And the last thing that they wanted to do was make sure that Dad every morning had his newspaper, because it was a really long walk from his home to the road, and they were concerned that in days of bad weather and whatnot, that it could be a real hazard for him to go venture out and get his morning paper. And so they set this up so they got alerts. It comes right to their phone, unbeknown, nothing that Dad has to do, but they get this insights and information posted in real time. And in the morning, they would know when Dad started his day, when he came down, made his cup of coffee, that they would venture out, get his paper, leave it at his doorstep, and he was none the wiser. Now, this is the kind of individual that really valued his independence. He just did not want to be a burden. He did not appreciate any calls from his family, constantly checking in on him. Now, the family, of course, was concerned, and they wanted to make sure that they were, had the peace of mind to make sure Dad was safe. Second example is from another 88-year-old man who lives very independently here in New Jersey. He has a very active social life. He's very active in the community, and he drives, and if you were to meet him, Bill, you would think he's 10 or 15 years younger.
Really?
Sadly, they had 2 tragedies in their family where 2 individuals fell, and neither of them survived the injuries that sustained from falling. And so what they wanted to do was provide this blanket of protection for their dad, knowing that regardless of someone's health and independence, tragedies could happen. And so the dad was thrilled to have this because there's nothing he has to do, but he was really comfortable knowing that there was a blanket of protection should he need assistance. The daughter has this experience where now in the morning, she gets these alerts on her phone that tell her when dad starts his day and sends a good morning message, good morning to my favorite daughter. And so it provides a different kind of experience between a father and a daughter and a father and a child. And at the end of the day, she knows that he's returned home after he's gone out to dinner and he's come home safely. She knows she has the peace of mind. And so envoyatHome provides this blanket of protection for the family.
That's great, Rob. This is fascinating. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about envoyatHome after we take a brief break from a word from our sponsors. This is Bill Borton for Live Better Longer with my guest Rob Blatt of envoyatHome. We'll be back in a moment.
Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write, the ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us on social media to watch bloopers, behind the scenes footage, previews, and more.
I work 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm off the clock, I gotta get stuff done. So when I...
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton, here with my guest, Rob Blatt from envoyatHome. So Rob, I get it. envoyatHome is like having your own envoy sending information from the home.
That's right, Bill. That's exactly what it does, except we didn't stop there. We really knew that there was incredible power and value in the data that envoyatHome had. And so what we did was we connected with the University of Pennsylvania. They have a program called Pennovation. And in Pennovation, they have a program that's funded by the National Science Foundation called the I-Corps program, which helps commercialize innovation. And so we were accepted into the program, and we brought envoyatHome into this, and we met with health policy experts, healthcare leaders, and we expanded our team to include folks who had RN degrees, PT degrees, PhDs in behavioral psychology, masters of public health, and we really see this as an enormous differentiator from what we're doing. We think there's tremendous value that our clients will gain from looking at this data from the perspective of a healthcare lens.
So who would use the data?
Well, the data would be used by a variety of organizations, and so one quick story I can share was we were brought in from a company who's a home health agency. They are a part of a national, they have a franchise in Philadelphia. They own a variety of territories in the Philadelphia area. They had a very challenging client, and we were asked to come in and help them. The problem was this individual was a 64-year-old male, dementia, and he had an aide from 7:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so the question was, what's happening at night when he's not there? Does he need more service? The family was concerned, had safety issues, but of course it's very expensive to bring in care 24 hours, and even more importantly—
Even more expensive than a nursing home in some cases.
It can very well be, that's right. And even more importantly, in terms of living better longer, this individual would completely lose his independence. He would have no time that would be available to him. And so we placed our sensors, as I said earlier in the show. They take about an hour. We help the staff configure this all up to set up a plan to monitor him. And within the first night, and certainly by the third night, the feedback was words like, "We are astounded. We had no idea what this individual was doing at night." And as it turns out, what he was doing was he would go to bed around normal bedtime, and then he'd wander out into his apartment, which is okay, but then he started opening his front door, and he would do this on average 5 times a night.
Wow.
Now, he wasn't leaving, but over the course of a couple of weeks, this became a very clear pattern of behavior for him. And by the 4th week, it actually started leaving the home for brief periods. The home care agency and the family were able to use this data, evidence-based, data-driven, to make some decisions around finding the right place, for this individual, to make sure he was safe in an environment that gave him the best possibility of living better longer.
So what I'm hearing is, even if you have family involvement and home health aides, envoyatHome is still applicable, right?
Exactly right. And so what we're finding is there's this balance between what we're calling high tech and high touch. And so there's no reason why we can't supplement what people are doing who already have home aides. And so we're working with agency providers who really see technology solutions as potentially benefiting their clients, and we're working with them to develop new business models to help them provide this to their clients. In some cases, people don't know where to start with home care, and so we can provide a way to, an on-ramp to allow families to just put this blanket of protection in so they can get an understanding of what's really happening in the home.
So we all know about people in our own lives here in the Philadelphia area where this is certainly applicable, but there's national potential for envoyatHome, isn't there?
Yeah, this is really an enormous problem. There's 10,000 people every day turning 65. By 2030, which is not too far off, the expectation, the projections have it that the number of seniors in our country will double to about 70 million people. And we're running out of caregivers. We already know that now, but the scale will actually tip in a few years, and there'll be more seniors than caregivers.
Well, and as the supply and the demand get out of balance, the cost is going to skyrocket at the very time when there's so much pressure on Medicaid, which is health care for the poor, and long-term care claims are going up, which is driving up premiums for long-term care insurance, and this truly is a national crisis.
Yeah, and there's actually one other aspect to this, that if you're following the national conversation around healthcare, regardless of your beliefs around single-payer or multi-payer, one of the strategies that does seem to cross both of those policies is this notion of value-based care. So the idea that let's pay for outcomes rather than procedures, and let's really— the other element of that is we want to treat people at home and out of the hospital. And so we really think that envoyatHome has a role to play in that process, and that we can help identify issues earlier, create interventions sooner, and monitor people in the home.
So do you see an evolvement of envoyatHome into things that we haven't even begun to talk about at this point? I mean, you're a visionary. Where do you see all this going?
Well, the way we see this going is providing more of a high-tech solution in the home to keep people safer, living longer, better, and helping them age in place. That's what people want.
So better outcomes, more efficiency, lower cost, familial relationships that remain intact. I mean, this just seems like a win-win-win-win-win.
That's what we believe, and that's the feedback that we're getting from our clients.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's truly amazing. So what I want to know, Rob, right now is, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that, you wanted people to stick around because you have an offer that you want to share. So would you spring that on us now?
Sure, yes. The great offer, we have an early access program. We still have some limited availability, limited space, and we would love to invite your viewers who are interested in living better longer, who believe they can benefit from combining a high-tech solution into their strategies for lowering costs and improving care. The way to reach us, there should be a graphic up that provides our contact info. Just go to www.envoyatHome.com, and from there you'll be able to find us, reach me, and we would love to continue the conversation to see if we can help.
That's great. So I see your phone number, I see your email address, rob@envoyathome.com. So easy to get in touch with you. And I know you're really enthusiastic about growing your business. And
Yes,
so, and you've already demonstrated from some of your stories that you're very much market driven. If somebody has a need, you and your team at Envoy at Home will figure out how to solve the need, right?
Those are the advantages of working with a young, eager company.
Mm-hmm. Super. Well, Rob, I really appreciate your coming on the show. Is there anything more about Envoy at Home that you want us to know at this point?
No, I think that the cost of aging is something that we're all going to have to face sooner or later, and I think the earlier we know about different solutions and strategies to help us find the right mix for a personalized, family-centric solution, the better off many of us will be. And I think we have a very exciting story, and I'm very happy to share it with your viewers.
Thank you. Well, I know personally that I know a number of people that need to know about Envoy at Home, and so you can expect your inbox to be buzzing, Rob, because
Alrighty.
I'm going to be making some introductions for you.
That's awesome.
So thanks for coming on the show. This is Bill Borton for Live Better Longer with my guest Rob Blatt from Envoy at Home with his truly revolutionary way of helping people to stay in their home safely, efficiently, and at a much lower cost. Thanks so much for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you again on next Tuesday at 11 here on RVN TV. Thanks so much for watching.